they're really good game developers. They come out with a new franchise title every 18 months, and each franchise title lasts a good 5 years. And you know that the next title may not become a franchise title, but somewhere in that 18 months, it's really predictable they're going to produce a great game. And so sometimes it's about people and the game-making experience.
Yeah.
Though I would posit that on mobile, what's becoming a good game is keeps being a moving target. So the predictability of the people aspect of it is a little bit lower, where sometimes the technology might not work.
Yeah. We talk a lot about turn into this that there's the game side and then there's the distribution side, and the distribution models are really being reinvented on the fly here. It's not straightforward how people, you can't sort of take a playbook and say this is how I'm going to go get distributed. There's tons of opportunity just in disrupting that part of the market. And also on the gaming front, what defines a game is changing. I mean, Angry Birds is a fairly simple thing to understand. It's like a game that we could have played 20 years ago. It just happens to be on your phone. But now you're getting into all these sort of, let's bleed the category. So location-based games, right? So you're actually, immersed in a game, in a sort of virtual reality game. Virtual reality in a different sense, right? You're getting in and using your phone to go to places and use game dynamics, and that's something just doesn't. No one's done this before, because with a laptop or a computer, that's sort of not part of. You don't carry it around with you. You don't interact with it. You don't sort of you don't enter into that game space on the web. So that is certainly a very interesting part that is uniquely mobile and interesting.
So how about location? I think that's another area that Richard, you had talked about. Just from a layman's view, location seems to be dominated by a couple of companies right now. Is there room for tiny startups to try to fit into this somehow? And if so, what are those ways that you guys are looking at?
I definitely think location is still early in the game. I mean, there are big players, whether it's Foursquare, now Facebook is obviously playing in that space. So they have a pretty big head start. But I think to the extent there are niche applications where it's checking into restaurants and reviewing them or what have you, there's I think there are opportunities to dig deeper and have a strong foothold in that area and then grow from there. Like it's somewhat akin. I think social is going to be a big part of that, to the extent that your use case then taps into your social graph and that can be viral. I think that's interesting. And I think back to what our social was 5+ years ago. MySpace was the dominant social network, and Facebook just nailed colleges. And so from that perspective, and they grew from there. I think it's very similar in terms of location. If you can find the right consumer application within a specific vertical, then you can really use that to expand.
Yeah, well, and one of the ways I think that a tiny startup in location or other places can punch above its weight is when you do something that leverages the crowd, as you said, whether it's restaurant reviews or there's a company I worked on in potential investment, we ended up not doing it, but it's called Trapster. It's crowdsourced speed traps and red light cameras around the world. And literally, I mean, they have I think they have 5 or 6 million downloads, many millions of average daily uniques, because you drive around with it all the time.
Is that on Android?
And it's literally 3 guys in San Diego, 2 of whom have day jobs, that they leverage these millions of users to create fresh content every day, and it provides a lot of value.
I was going to say, I think local is going to be where you see a lot of activity in the future when it comes to location-based. At the macro level, things categorically covered by so many different apps in the space, and now I think there's a rising tide around local.
So it's actually interesting. My background, I'm an engineer who grew up. I'm a control systems guy who did GPS. So location. So I'm the guy who was doing chips and software to do location at some point. And this is back in the 90s, and we would always talk about being a GPS company, and that has sort of ceased to be interesting anymore, right? Now it's location, but of course GPS is under the hood, and there's also. I actually think my prediction over the next few years is that location will become not interesting, in the same way that GPS is no longer interesting. It's just going to be part of the fabric. Of course your thing knows where it is, and of course your app takes advantage of that. That's sort of the direction I think this is heading.
So Brooke, I've got to ask the one question to every panel on mobile, which is the carrier question. And that is, it's always been, frankly, hard to play sometimes with the carriers. And I'm curious kind of where we are today and kind of what your perspective on, what carriers are doing today and how that's going to affect kind of these investments. Is there anything you can say?
Sure. I'll comment as best I can about one carrier. I came from T-Mobile before T-Venture, so it's a sister company transition, so to speak, in terms of roles. And I was there 5 years as a director in finance and product development and technology strategy. And I think carriers are grappling with the change in the competitive landscape. They used to be fighting with each other. I'm going to tell you a lot of obvious things you already know. There's been a lot of companies within 10 miles of this building that have come up and become competitors to operators. And they're trying to figure out how to embrace that ecosystem. And it's a real struggle. There's a lot of navel gazing that happens in Bellevue, T-Mobile, and maybe in Dallas and other places. But I think there's a transition underway, and operators are going to have to figure that out, and they will. There's a leadership transition at T-Mobile on both sides of the pond, and a new kind of DNA that's bringing products and services to market. It takes a long time to change the direction of the big steamship. So I'm optimistic, but I'm realistic too that it's going to be a long, long time coming. And so in the meantime, there's tremendous opportunity for the early stage companies to grab market share and consumer mind share and profits.
Any other thoughts on kind of the relationship with carriers that anyone wants to add that would be helpful for kind of early stage companies or anything?
Well, I think in
Sure.
general, the carriers, because in the iPhone ecosystem and Apple itself having sucked so much power, setting prices, setting rev shares, setting policy, all that kind of things, have probably frightened the carriers into embracing, at least in my experience in the portfolio companies we have, in the past even just 6 months, and in particular 3 months, being more open and collaborative with the companies. And you're seeing things like very dramatic shifts in rev share payouts. There was a small shift from the we scrape 40% to we scrape 30%, just as Apple does, to the hey, if it's a virtual good and we can stop with the customer support and say no refunds, maybe we'll go to an even much lower rev share and pay out more to the developer. And so that could, it really, getting the money back really does make a difference. And so if you could say, hey, I'm only going to get 30% if I publish on iPhone, but if I'm on Android or Windows Phone and I'm with this carrier, they're only going to take 12%. That's a pretty big difference in how much money you can make on those platforms. And so those kinds of, loosening up, I think are helping companies.
I think what you'll see is at least 2 carriers, maybe T-Mobile and maybe one other one, unlock the network API that they have at some point in time to the developer community and enable that kind of collaborative market development. And when that occurs, I think then you see some macro changes again in the ecosystem.
Let me throw just one other area out there, which is ads. And I think, I don't know, it may be a topic in another panel, but I'm just curious from the investor's perspective, where is the money being made here? And is it something, obviously everyone's bullish about in a certain sense, how bullish? And, how is this going to evolve? Are people reacting to the ads in the way that we think they should be or are? Or will be?
So I think it's that maybe we were remiss earlier in not saying that this is one of the areas of still pretty big opportunity. I think the current mode of ads, although I think there are people who are starting to create new ones, I think mobile will have a new ad paradigm. It's going to be different than it is on the web. Using banner ads onto phones has been okay successful, not really successful, and I think that you're going to see that world take off in the next little while, and then you're going to see the creation of sort of new ad units that are very mobile focused. That I think that's what's going to drive that category.
I think the ad category is going to be driven largely by really strong analytics about individual consumer preferences, and the companies that can prevail in that space. I'll give a little blurb about one of my companies, Media Systems, out of Seattle. If you have an Android device from T-Mobile today and you touch the internet icon on the home screen, you're actually experiencing the Media Systems window portal to the internet. And so the consumer is going to get highly personalized recommendations and advertising through these portals because of the analytics provided by platforms like Media Systems, and that'll drive the ad revenues in the ecosystem.
Yeah, to date, the banner ad has been the predominant ad format on mobile. And that was what drove AdMob really. But now you're seeing as much more of the content is consumed in apps, right, as opposed to mobile web. You're getting a much more integrated experience and a huge rise in the use of mobile video ads. And so that trend that's happening on the web where where video is by far the highest growth category of kind of advertising on the web is spilling over to mobile. And in fact, major brand campaigns are running seamlessly across both web and mobile with 15 and 30-second brand spots. So that's happening a lot. I mean, I have another portfolio company that's a premium web publisher, but also the largest mobile publisher in the healthcare category. And they're running big brand ad campaigns from P&G and J&J and all these kind of people across the whole network.
And so I think overall, I am certainly bullish on mobile advertising as a market. I mean, just the growth rates are impressive. We spend a lot of time talking to ad agencies and understanding how their ad spend is shifting, and mobile is an area that it's growing just double digits quite a bit. So it's something that more budgets are being allocated towards, and so I think overall the prospects are good. I think from an investment standpoint, I'm personally cautious of mobile advertising, not because I don't think money's not going to flow into the sector. I think it's because Google and Apple have plays there, and Apple can wreak havoc. They have, this year's gone back and forth as to whether Apple is allowed to place ads on their platform, and I guess they'll be investigated if they really go through with that in terms of monopoly power. But the fact that they have just have that ability, and it's hard to get excited about a small mobile advertising network.
Right, ad network. Just because ads are happening doesn't mean ad networks are a good investment.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, overall, I think mobile advertising will grow. Whether I just worry that Google and Apple are going to capture most of that. So I'm cautious of investment in the area unless some of these new innovations break through that maybe Google and Apple are less able to capitalize on.
Why don't we jump to just the mechanics of these investments? Are investments in the mobile sector, do kind of the paradigms of venture investing all hold true in terms of valuation, amount of raise, the things that you're looking for in the company, etc.? Are there any differences that we should highlight to the audience here?
So I just closed a mobile investment. It's an HTML5 platform company called Strove. It's based on the open source Spread Core framework. So it's a guy out of Apple. He was at Apple doing software stuff when they invented the iPhone and the iPad and stuff like that. And I would say that deal from all angles looks the same as sort of a seed Series A deal that we would have done in the non-mobile space. There's not a noticeable difference in terms of our approach.
I'll disagree.
Well, so I mean, it really varies on the kind of category that you're investing in. So it's hard to say even within mobile. I mean, I would say, again, it's sort of swung because traditionally mobile was actually a quite capital-intensive business because of the platform heterogeneity and because it generally meant you had to do something that was worldwide, not just North America. And now the innovation in mobile has swung into North America, where it used to be we were the strong laggard. Now we're actually the leader. So it's reduced the capital requirements for some extent. But there are categories, I would say, if you're on the fundraising side, there are categories of venture firms who have had a good experience in mobile and will do more of it. And there are categories of venture firms who are afraid of mobile and just won't touch it. Like you show them a deal and they just go, we're allergic to carriers. You're not, you don't understand this risk. They're like, just don't want to have it. And you just have to figure out how to weed those out.
Absolutely. Great.
I think one change for T Venture this year was we did our first seed round this summer for a self company based in Boston, and we think there'll be another seed round done for an investment probably based here. And that's new and different for corporate strategics to be that early in the game, but we see that as part of our competitive strategy.
Great. Maybe I'll have one more question, and we did want to leave some time for the audience as well. If I could have maybe each of you just give me the name of a favorite early stage company that's not your own in this sector, and why?
Wow.
Anyone? There's got to be something.
Now we have to communicate quickly to say each other's company.
Plug each other's company.
Well, I love the Flipboard app. I don't know how they're going to make money, plus they got copyright problems help at Wazoo, but it's a really cool product.
I'm talking to a company called Range Networks, and they're early stage company, 6 people locally, and they offer software-defined radio for film to cells, and that's a